Jeremiah 49 verse 10. But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. See, this is a very important situation that the Lord wanted to tell about these Edomites, about the nation of Edom. They would try to hide themselves. And when you're talking about hiding, you're talking about identity, like a fugitive. A fugitive don't want nobody to know his identity because he's running from the law. And in the law, Edom was given a punishment, a future punishment. When you go into the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, it tells you that Edom has a prophetic future, great future judgment. You see? And they understood that they was themselves. Now in the Jewish Encyclopedia in 1925, they understood that the Jewish so-called Jewry was Edom. And then you have in the book Censorship of Hebrew Books by Popper, on page 58, shows how when the Jews, when they converted to Judaism and they was seeing Edom, or they was placing Edom in the place of Rome or the Romans. So they was calling the Romans Edom. And so when the time went on, the rabbis would cross out the Edom and put a whole nother name, because they was trying to erase the thought of Edom being the so-called white man, which goes back to the University School of History that was in Germany. I don't know how to pronounce that. Göttingen, in Germany. That's a German word and name. So this school was established somewhere in the 1600s. We know what was going on in the 1600s. You had the King James. You had the 30-year war between all these other countries. And it was a transition of the King James rulership, and also the Renaissance, pretty much the Renaissance coming into fruition, where they was changing the images and hiding all the information that the so-called dark-skinned people was ruling the Byzantine Empire, the Roman Empire, all of Europe, with nobles and presidents and people that had power. With the Roman icons, they was Russian icons. They was in Russia, Germany. They was in all these places. And so during that period of time, when there was this expulsion, in 1492, they had the expulsion period of the Jews, or of the Israelites, and all that was the people that was ruling during the Dark Ages. So they was trying to erase all of the history and the evidence, and that was that period of time. So at the height of that, when they had covered over all the evidence and started to cover everything up, they had a school of history. And this was the Enlightenment period of how pretty much how they was gonna hide everything that they was doing by pretty much covering the pictures, but how was they gonna hide it in the history books? That's when it got into a deep level. And it was another organization that they had, like it was called the something of thinkers. But let me go into these two individuals because these two alone exposes the activity. And this this university um exposed the activity too, because it shows how Adam something something who started the Illuminati, he was inspired by a guy that went to this university. So this guy that went to this university inspired the Illuminati to come over here and create America and organize America how it is now. But let's go into these two individuals now. Let's see. Let me get my Google. Okay, we're going to Christopher. See, I know they gonna mess up how the thing is rolling. Let's go into Christopher. Okay. Now, this dragon, boy, he's something else. Now, he went to the university in 1775 when America was established in 1776. You see, he was involved with the Illuminati guy, or he was showing one of the person that they were listening to. Now it says here, I'm gonna just get to the point. It says Myers, here, let me highlight it. Okay, forget that. It says Myers split mankind into two divisions, which he labeled the beautiful white race and the ugly black race. In Myers' book, The Outline of History of Mankind, he claimed that a main characteristic of race, that a main characteristic of race is either beauty or ugliness. He viewed only the white race as beautiful. He considered ugly races as inferior, immoral, and animal-like. He claimed that the black ugly people are distinct from the white beautiful people by their sad lack of virtue and their terrible vices. It says the more intelligent and noble people are by nature, the more adaptable, sensible, delicate, and soft in their body. On the other hand, the less they possess the capability and disposition towards virtue, the more they lack adaptability. And not only that, but the less sensitive are their bodies, the more can they tolerate extreme pain or the rapid alteration of heat and cold. Uh, when they are exposed to illnesses and more rapid than recovery from wounds, they would be fatal or more sensitive people, and the more they can partake of the worst and most ingestible foods without noticeable ill effects. Myers claimed that Negroes felt less pain than any other race and lacked in emotions. Myers wrote that the Negro has had thick nerves that was not sensible like the other races. He went as far as to say that the Negro has no human, barely any animal feelings. He described a story where a Negro was condemned to death by being burnt alive. Halfway through the burning, the Negro asked to smoke a pipe and smoked it like nothing was happening while he continued to be burned alive. Myers studied the anatomy of the Negro and came to the conclusion that the Negro had bigger teeth, jaws than any other race, and other Negro, as the Negro are all carnivores. Myers claimed the skull of the Negro was larger, but the brain of the Negro was smaller than any other race. Myers claimed the Negro was the most unhealthy race on earth because of the Negro's poor diet, mood of living, and lack of morals, he said. So you see, this dude, it was a certified hardcore hater of these people that was ruling in that time. And he was trying to demonize them to the max. And they understood all these things. They was deep back then. See, in that Enlightenment period, these people was writing books. They was in colleges. They was digging deep into philosophy and psychology. They was not no country backwood people with with chewing tobacco, talking, barely could read and write, who was establishing slavery in the organization of America. See, this is not ignorant people that is doing these things. See, these are educated Christian, so-called Christian people. Now, this dude, he was against Christian everything, because in his book, what's the name of that book? In his book, The Outline History of Mankind, he went through the whole history of the Hebrew peoples and where they came from, what they was doing with King Solomon, Samson, and all these people. And when the kingdom split between the Israelites and the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom, he was breaking all that down. You see? And then, but he was saying that they were stealing stories from the Egyptians and the Babylonians, and he was saying that they story of Adam and Eve, that wasn't adding, wasn't making sense, and the critics and the scholars and all this, he was in all of he was deep into it. These were not ignorant people. They knew exactly what was going on. College professors. He became a full professor. What did it say? It say he went to school. Okay, he was a student in 1767 to 1770. Okay, he became a professor in 72 and a full professor in 75. See, so this dude was in college. He was studying all of the history, the books, the Bible. And see, the major thing was, let's go into where they getting all this stuff from. Cause see, they following other men. Let's go into the other dude. Let's get his buddy. Cause he had another buddy that was going hard, and probably harder than he going. Joanne Blumenbach. See, these two dragons, they was on the scene going in. And you see what it say with him. It say, the founder of anthropology, meaning talking about the race theory, he was also important as a race theorist. See, they was digging into this race situation. All right, let's go into that. Now, when you go into that school, the school was a major situation. Look at it. It got they two names right here. And when it got that school, which the Illuminati was digging all of their information out and their theories and all of where they was gonna go with it at the end. It says Blumenbach and Myers color terminology of race. Color terminology of race. So going to that color terminology of race, then look where it goes to. It said identifying human race in the terms color, skin color, at least as one among several psychological characteristics has been common since antiquity. Such divisions appeared in I can't even say the word, in rabbinical rabbinical literature in early modern scholarship. So in the rabbinical literature, they pretty much was talking about the skin situation. Because, see, they understood the Hebrew scriptures, and it's just a story, and the story was simple. It was between Jacob and Esau. Jacob was already known as the dart because Moses had put his hand in his bosom, and it came out with leprosy. So he wasn't a leopard. See, he wasn't from these leopard peoples. He was a dart. His skin was regular, common. And see, back this time, these people knew in the 1800s, 1600s, they knew about skin. Everybody had two types of skin. They had what you call it, psychologists. They had anthropologists. They had people that dealt with the anatomy, so they understood these things. This wasn't no hidden situation. See, what they whole situation came down to was how we gonna hide this thing and muddy up the water so it can be unclear of what's going on. See, we just trying to muddy up the water because we don't want nobody to see what's in here. That's all they were trying to do. So they went into the Jewish people, the rabbis, and they literature in the Talmud. What I think it say something about the Talmud. Yeah, look at him. All in the Talmud. It say color. The transmission of color terminology for race. It appeared in the rabbi literature, and so then it started naming a specific rabbi, and it says it wasn't in the medieval times. It was where did it say this at? In medieval times, it didn't say nothing about color. Now it talked about that people was known by their nationality before all of this color stuff came into the play. Okay. But this school, look, Bloomberg belonged to a group known as the Gotten School of History, which helped to popularize his ideas. Negroid. There go the Christopher guy. Look it up. White supremacists. White supremacists. Because everybody went by nationality until this situation popped off. So pretty much before slavery in the Renaissance time, people was going off. Forget slavery. Before these two idiots popped up on the scene, people was going by nationality. And before this school, let's go back to that school and see when that school got started. Okay, when did this school get started? The school itself was one of the newest universities in Europe, having been founded in 1734. So they founded the school in 1734. Now it was another idiot. Now look at, okay, here go all the people that went to the school. These were the people that pretty much was helping make popular this race theory. And you see Blumenbach here, he almost one of the last ones. And then Myers is here in the middle. And this Joanne, something about this Joanne was a popular name. And when you look at it, you got a bunch of historians. Like this, he's a historian. Let's go back. The main guy, he was a biblical scholar and teacher. So one of the first guys who was in there when it was being established as a school, it was a biblical scholar. They was dealing with the Bible, and they was trying to change up identities. They was using philosophy and all kind of other stuff to try to work on the mind. See, psychological historians. See, this is what they were dealing with, the psyche of people and how to change up history. Look at the biblical terminology for race. They was coming up with and see, this is what the so-called Jewish people was coming up with. This Semitic, Hamitic, and Japhetic, with all of those categories, is accurate when it came to the three people, but this Semitic, that's not how the man's name was spelled. He had an H in his name, Shem, no Semitic. But see, this all coming from the small hats, what they call these so-called Jewish people who stealing people identity. See, they was running the show. See, they got this in French. In German. You can't even hear. See what he. Okay, that. Let's go back. I'm out of hit a button. Why they won't even get his information in English? Oh, there we go. I was gonna say, y'all really trying to hide some stuff now. Okay, Prime Minister. Okay, he was born in Berlin, 1688. Because in 81, they said they started, in 1681, they started calling themselves white. Mind you, the slave ships had already embarked on their journey. They had already went down there to the west coast of Africa and was bringing slaves to America. And they knew they was from the kingdom of Judah because they had the ship, on the ship records, it was saying that they was from the kingdom of Judah going to New Orleans. They were dropping off people from the kingdom of Judah in the New Orleans records. So they knew what they was doing, and they knew who they was going to get. But this enlightened pyramid in the college, they was trying to deal with people's psyche and create a way to hide the identity of people. And so they say, let's come up with some theory of race where we can say we're not even going to deal with people's nationalities. Nationality won't even be on the table. People will be calling folks by race, and they won't even be thinking about what's the real nationality of the people. They won't be thinking about who is Edomites and who is Israelites. They won't even thinking nothing about it. They'll be so caught up on this race stuff. Black, white, yellow, red, green, all this mess. And so that's what they college pretty much came up with at the end of the day. And to show you how Illuminati, let's go into that guy too before I close out. See, because he went right back to that school, and that's the main point I wanted to get out of him. Adam, he was a German philosopher. See, he wasn't just, and he was a lawyer, canon law. He was dealing with the Bible, canon law. But let's see, go into his situation. See, his early life, and he was influenced. Plus, it was this school of Jesus. This school of Jesus was a school that pretty much was focusing on the Bible, man. And so they called themselves Jesuits. And he was connected to both of these schools. This school that was talking about race and hiding identity pretty much, and he was with the Jesuits, priests, a school of Jesus. They call it the school of Jesus, but they call themselves Jesuits. Now, here, it says in 17, that right there, 1775, he was introduced to the empirical philosophy of Joanne such and such of the University of Göttingen or whatever. So same school. So this in the same situation. So this is how he connected to them. society of Jesus, Salakia. He was a part of that society of Jesus. In that society of Jesus, they was pushing out Jesuits, people that would go travel and infiltrate every kind of organization. So he was already into this secret society mindset. He was raised up on that. So when he was dealing, he got inspired by this school that was trying to hide identity and change up the identity of the peoples and categorize people. So now you ain't thinking about who is an Israelite and who is an Edomite, because they knew that Bible was all about Edomites and Israelites. The Hamites, Japheth and Ham, they wasn't even on the scene like that. They wasn't even talked about too much. It was mainly about those three other ones that was connected to Abraham, Ishmael and Edom. Them the two that they was trying to make sure people don't know too much about that. Now Ishmael, they ain't do too much for them, even though they did create the Muslim whole situation, the Catholic Church, or these freaking Enlightenment peoples. Then you had Shem. Shem had the Edomites and the Israelites. And so they wanted to make that thing real muddy, because once you read that story, you're going to get an understanding. But that's why the Catholic Church didn't tell their people to read it. But yeah, this dragon, let me go back to my main picture. These two dragons connected everything with this one school, because through this school you had the Illuminati getting their ideas of this race theory. So when America was established, you had the secret society was the upper echelon of the situation, even though they had these so-called governors and people signing the Constitution. But the Constitution was with the people that was going to establish the country, with George Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. They were just governors and soldiers in the military. But these are the upper echelons people that was in the Illuminati and at these universities, professors and stuff in these European countries, Germany, uh, London, and all these other places, with their nobles and kings and princes. Them people was doing all of the organizing of what is the identity of the people. Because you got the military, they gonna go down here and establish the country and set up the country with the commanders and chiefs and all this, but they don't got no power. They just doing the footwork for these jokers up in there with their little bow ties and hair curled up like a woman, and sitting up in these castles and all up in these European countries, living on the hog, while the soldiers down here in America putting these Negroes to work and pretty much taking over the Indian land and finding out what the heck going on to establish them a country. This is going on between the 1600s and the 1700s. This is when they were destroying nationality, mainly because they was enlightening to the fact that they was Edomites, and the evidence was everywhere. And those Negroes that they was putting in slavery in the kingdom of Judah was Israelites. They knew what they was doing, and they was trying to hide the identity of the Israelites. And they knew they people was gonna be confused too. That's why they had the secret society where only a selected group of them, group of their peoples know what's going on. But I'm gonna leave it there. Pretty much, I hit every point that I could think of. But yeah, all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Kakadash. Double honors to the elders pushing the truth. Peace of the elect, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, descendants of slaves scattered around the globe. Our kingdom is at hand. Shalom.